Imagine everyone calls you stupid, your teacher, your classmates, even your relatives. But one day, that same stupid kid comes up with an idea that questions time, space, and reality itself. This is the story of Albert Einstein, the man who, through pure curiosity and imagination, broke the walls of classical physics and proved that even light can bend, just like time itself. Now come with me as we travel from his childhood to his final breath and discover how one lonely mind changed the entire world. The birth of a different man on March 14, 1879, in the quiet town of Ulm, Germany, a baby boy was born. His father Hermann was an electrical engineer, and his mother Pauline was a pianist. They were an ordinary family, not rich, not poor, but full of love and curiosity. At the very start, Albert was different. He spoke late, stared off into space, and rarely smiled. Doctors worried, but his mother said, "Don't worry. He's just thinking." At age 5, his father gave him a compass. Albert stared at the needle for hours, whispering, "Something invisible is moving it." That moment lit a spark in his mind, a spark that would never fade. As a teenager, he fell in love with the violin. He said music gave his mind balance and harmony. Even then, you could tell this was no ordinary boy. School, a prison for a free mind. Einstein hated school. He despised the strict, militaristic system of German education. In his diary, he wrote, "School was a place where imagination was killed." When someone asked why he disobeyed rules, he said, "Because I don't want to learn like a machine." At 16, he dropped out and moved to Switzerland, where education was freer. In the entrance exam to the Polytechnic of Zurich, he got a perfect score in math and physics, but failed in language and history. One of his professors later said, "Einstein was the only student I ever had who taught me something." After graduation, no university wanted to hire him. Professors called him undisciplined and a dreamer. Eventually, he got a low-level job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His job was to review technical designs, repetitive and dull, but during quiet hours behind his small desk, he imagined the universe on scraps of paper. He later said, "The patent office was my temple of contemplation." Most nights, he'd stay up late writing equations, and on weekends, he met with a few friends in what they called the Bern Physics Club. That's where the foundation of modern physics began. In 1905, Einstein published 4 papers, each one powerful enough to make history on its own. Photoelectric effect explained that light isn't just a wave, but made of tiny particles called photons. This discovery would later lead to solar power. Brownian motion proved that atoms really exist, ending centuries of debate. Special relativity revealed that time and space are not absolute, but relative to each observer. And finally, equals mc, the formula showing that mass and energy are one and the same. The world of science was stunned. A simple clerk had challenged Newton himself. Newspapers wrote, "A new brain has been born in physics." This equation means that every tiny bit of matter holds enormous energy. If we could convert all the mass in a human body to energy, it could power several nuclear bombs. But Einstein never wanted his science to destroy. When he heard about Hiroshima, he said, "If I had known they would use my theory for this, I would have kept silent." Ironically, this same formula became the foundation for nuclear energy, GPS, and modern technology. Einstein was a genius, but also a deeply human man filled with pain. His marriage to Mileva Marek, his former classmate, was turbulent. She was a scientist too, and didn't want to live in his shadow. They eventually divorced. He later remarried, but much of his life was spent alone. In the 1930s, when the Nazis rose to power, he fled Germany and moved to the US. Because he was Jewish, he settled in Princeton, where he lived until his death. He hated war and politics. When asked about his religion, he said, "I believe in God as the order and beauty of the universe, not in the God of religion." He wore simple clothes, didn't like shoes, and rode his bicycle to work. Despite global fame, he remained humble and kind. In 1915, he published his theory of general relativity. He claimed that gravity isn't a pulling force, but the curving of space and time caused by mass. 4 years later, during a solar eclipse, scientists proved his theory right. Light from stars bent around the sun, exactly as he predicted. The newspapers shouted, "Light has bent, Einstein triumphs." Overnight, he became the most famous scientist on Earth. In 1921, he received the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for relativity, but for his photoelectric work, since relativity was still too hard to believe at the time. Einstein's genius wasn't just in formulas, it was in his way of thinking. He often said, "I never made one of my discoveries through logic. It was imagination that guided me." He'd walk for hours, running thought experiments in his head, like what would happen if I rode alongside a beam of light. Those simple mental gains became revolutionary theories. He believed the important thing is never to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. To him, every answer was just a doorway to a new question. On April 18, 1955, in a Princeton hospital, Einstein died of a ruptured aorta. The doctor offered surgery, but he said, "I want to go when it's time. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially." His death was simple. But what happened next was strange. The pathologist secretly removed his brain, hoping to discover the secret of genius. Decades later, scientists found that parts of his brain, especially those related to imagination and spatial reasoning, were larger than average. But what Einstein truly left behind wasn't his brain, it was his mindset. He taught humanity to doubt, to imagine, to in his final notes, he wrote, "I die in peace, for my curiosity has not been satisfied," and that is beautiful. Einstein taught us that to change the world, you don't need to be born a genius. You just need to think differently, to ask questions, and to never fear mistakes. If this story inspired you, hit that like button and tell me in the comments below, what do you think genius really means? Is it in your genes or in your mindset? Because maybe your answer could spark the next Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Albert Einstein.